Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. Very exciting to be here. Of course, back at full strength plus one, we have our good friend, Mr. Ben Checkness, on as a guest today. Ben, welcome to you and welcome back. And say hello to the folks back at home. Or anywhere, really.
Yes, hello. And there's my guest host right there.
Right, he's coming in loud and clear. He wants to get a word in edgewise. Mango
wants to participate in the show today. So,
well, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have him. And we have a great show lined up. Of course, I'm Illeagle 86. We have Nerdbomber and Techtic waiting here in the wings as well.
Hello, everybody.
Who we should also be happy for. Come on, guys.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thrilled to have all of you here, not just Ben, but especially Ben. And we are going to talk primarily about gaming today, taking a step into the gaming world. We, of course, had State of Play this week, which was a big deal. A lot of trailer drops, gameplay footage from that. This big Pokemon announcement that came on Friday that was associated with the 25th anniversary of the franchise. And then we also have to talk about this news coming out about Dragon Age and BioWare and some changes to BioWare's direction in terms of their development. So we can dive right in. In particular, I want to start with State of Play because this was pretty jam-packed. And we can go through a lot of the games, if not all of the games that were showcased. A lot of them we've certainly seen before, Deathloop, Returnal. But we did get some new ones as well. And I will say, before we get into the nuts and bolts and the nitty-gritty, overall, State of Play is really a disappointment. This was a resounding success to me, and I want to characterize that a little bit better in the sense that there were certain trailers that I went to watch. I didn't watch the event live, I watched after the fact, and I immediately thought, just from an aesthetic standpoint, seeing certain games, I was like, I'm not going to be into this game, or this game is not for me, so to speak. The mark of a good slate is that those games pushed through that barrier for me. So, for example, Sifu. And we don't necessarily have to talk about that one first.
We do.
But I saw that game, in the opening moments of that trailer, I thought, this is not for me. I don't care. It made me care. In the sense of what it was doing. Knockout City, same situation. The one I want to mention the most, though, was, I don't know how it's pronounced, so I'm going to try my best. Is it Kena Bridge of Spirits or Kena Bridge of Spirits? That was one where I immediately thought, I don't care. And then I'm sorry, Nerdbomber. I had a feeling you were going to care particularly about this one. I was blown away by even Solar Ash.
I really want everyone to know Nerdbomber's exact reaction on that one. When it opened up and there was an adorable, cute lump.
Yeah, the little porg thing. I kept thinking of the porgs from Star Wars.
All she said was, I'm sold.
Yeah, that was it. That was all she needed. And I did have a conscious moment watching that where I was like, Nerdbomber's going to love this one. But so let's turn over to Ben to start. Ben, I mentioned just then most of the games, or at least a huge portion that were showcased. What was the one, if you could pick one, that stuck out to you the most as this is a must buy, or this is a particular surprise that I wasn't necessarily expecting and I'm really into?
I would say Returnal is one that I was most excited about.
You and I both.
And watched. Yeah, and I thought, that's what I thought immediately, was that it would kind of scratch that Dead Space itch that you've been trying to get to. But yeah, it looks really like a very interesting kind of sci-fi thriller horror kind of game.
Yeah, well, and they showed us a lot here, right? They showed us, a lot of the core mechanics we hadn't yet seen. Visually, it looked stellar, very well polished. And then the thing that got me the most was this switch at the end from third to first person perspective. Wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
And was very, very into this idea of, okay, yes, it's primarily a shooter where you're on a different planet and you keep dying. But we also have this sort of, we're going to explore this character's memories in a way that A, is scary, and B, characterizes her a little bit better so you care about her more. And that's... that was Returnal was the one. I'm glad you brought it up, because Returnal was the one that I kind of glossed over a little bit in my initial volley talking about these games, but I knew I was going to like that before, and I know now it just cemented that that's going to be a take my money situation for me.
Yeah, and it's also similarly to like Dead Space. It's got that whole like how much of this is real, how much of this is generated by whatever the anomaly or thing is. So it looks like narratively it's going to be pretty amazing. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. That was definitely top build for me as well. But so Nerdbomber, Techtic, Nerdbomber. It sounds like you might say Kena Bridge of Spirits was your number one. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Techtic, let's take your temperature.
I mean, you already know mine. I feel like it was Sifu.
It's Sifu.
Yeah. The thing that was weird for me to watch it is I weirdly got nostalgic vibes from a game that had nothing to do with my childhood. And I believe this is based on the animation styles that they used. And it hit me right in that niche. And I loved it for that. And it also felt to have the same kind of, if you die, you get more experience and
you age.
Yeah. I basically, I'm kind of a scaredy cat, and it seemed like it gave me that cool element with less scary vibes, which was nice.
Certainly.
You know what? I have a question for Techtic about the Sifu trailer. How do you think it's going to handle, like, once you've aged significantly, right? I mean, how do you think it's going to be handled once you die X number of times? Do you just die?
I think there's pre-programmed you won't win this fight type things. I think it's going to be, if you die just because you stink at the game, it's just going to be standard respawn. But if you die at a certain point, that's how the story sort of progresses.
So you're going to age up.
Yeah.
What I wonder is it could be an interesting thing too, where like we've all aged. You lose capabilities physically.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't aged a bit. I'm still a baby over here. I can just talk really well.
I also do wonder, though, if the dynamic isn't what I just explained. If it is, you age every time you die. If the age is sort of equivalent to lives in the game.
So they don't affect you necessarily. They just are a kind of...
Yeah, so like, let's say you get 5 lives, and life 1 is going to be age 20 to 30. 30 to 40, etc. And then once you get to a certain age, it's just you get punched in the face and then you turn into dust.
just like real life. I love the idea of like this Karate Kid to Mr. Miyagi transition where presumably you learn new things about how to fight. But at the same time, I think it would be cool if Mr. Miyagi was good, but he couldn't fight, I don't know, Rocky. I'm trying to pull age.
Oh, he would destroy Rocky. Come on.
Different age parallels.
I kind of get what you're saying. Like you'll learn new skills, but your, I guess, general strength and stamina is going to go down as you age. So it'll be like a balancing act.
But Sifu is not about strength. It's about balance. And you don't need to be this big brute to throw someone off and take them down.
I didn't take karate when I was a kid, but like that is the general premise, is it not? Like you don't have to look like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can look like Ralph Macchio and kick the crap out of people. And look, Ralph Macchio is a good looking dude, but you get my point.
Another thing that I was thinking of with age, there's a wisdom. I mean, I don't know. This goes into just kind of philosophy about things in general. But if there's a trade-off between, your senses are sharper, like
exactly.
other ways to use this kind of method of aging, and how it's like you guys said, it's a balance and it's a trade-off. So it's like as you age,
I do wonder if you'll get more counter moves and things like that as you do age up for that exact wisdom, quote unquote, reasoning.
Right. There's one thing that's interesting is that there's a lot of parallels between a lot of these games, Returnal, Deathloop, Sifu, where the primary mechanic seems to be you die, but you learn things by dying, and then you can apply those things, right? And I think with Sifu, the clear description of that and the intent of it, that the exact intent of it was a little bit less spelled out, but I think the point that we've been discussing it for this long is kind of proof that the concept itself is very good and very strong, and I mean it has all of us interested.
That's the fun part about uncertainty and when games are announced, is you can imagine it to be the coolest thing ever, then hopefully not get willfully disappointed.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the fact that these are a lot of roguelikes, or seem to be? Like,
that to me, so that kind of turns me off a little bit. And so I was actually really excited about Returnal when I initially saw it. And then the more that I found out about the game and how much of a roguelike it seems to be, I always like the premise and the idea of roguelike games, but then I get really, really frustrated because I feel like I'll progress at like super far on a certain run and then I die and I have to start over. And that irritates the living crap out of me. And I've played roguelikes in every manner. It was one of the reasons Outer Wilds I've heard really great things about, and I played it for probably like an hour and got super frustrated and noped out, which I feel like I need to try that again. But even stuff like Neon Abyss, which I actually loved Neon Abyss and had a really good time. But I think I rage quit when I finally had a really good run. And I think I'd stayed alive for like 5 hours straight. And then I died. And it was just the prospect of starting over is super daunting to me.
So did you enjoy Simba, the Lion King video game from back in the day?
I mean, I did. It's tough with lives. Like, it's one of those things. And part of the reason why I don't, like, I love the idea of going back and playing retro games. And then usually when I do, unless there's like save games and stuff like that, I just get so frustrated because I don't know how I used to do it when I was younger because all of the games used to have lives.
Oh, man.
But it's something I just don't have a lot of patience for.
Yeah.
Do you think the narrative could get you through that if the narrative is interesting enough, or if the storyline kind of grabs you in such a way that would?
I hope
that's
so.
The thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that's what, like, I'm back and forth on roguelikes myself. My main body of roguelike experience is with Everspace, which honestly was a mixed bag. I liked it quite a bit when I started it, and I would die and I would say, okay, but I've gained resources, I can upgrade my ship and try again, et cetera, et cetera. It got a little stale. And I think the reason for that is that the story in Everspace barely exists. It's not really a story. There's nothing chaining you to the game and keeping you invested after you've died a certain number of times. I think Returnal, I think the design of it, at least based on what they're showing us, is it's this roguelike thing, but along the way, I would think they're going to ensure through careful design that you can still get far enough to learn something about this character, to go inside the house that she grew up in and learn something about her that keeps you invested. I do think story is critically important. I think Deathloop, probably the same thing. Deathloop, I think, is going to be more of a Dishonored situation where you have to learn how to do things in different ways to be the most effective. You know, there's all these decision points in Dishonored, right? Which are, do you kill this person and, you know, the rest of the game is going to be harder as a result? Or do you do the extra work to non-lethally take this person out of the picture? And do you, Deathloop has told us this, and that they've been very heavy-handed with this mechanic relative to Sifu, in the sense that they're telling you explicitly, you're going to die many times, and it's going to teach you, okay, I can kill 2 people at once if I do things in a very specific way, and that will give me more time to do more things, because I believe in Deathloop there's actually a running clock, and that's what you're up against primarily.
The key saving grace, in my opinion, of both of these games is the fact that they're more of a puzzle than they are just, you have to get from point A to point B, and oh, by the way, don't die.
Right. Sifu, I'm not so sure, though. But Deathloop and Returnal, yes, I would agree. But that's, again, Sifu, we don't know too much about yet. And we'll be learning more. I want to talk a little bit about one of the games that doesn't fit into this model, which I was super into. And this was one that when it first popped up, I was like, I don't care. Then it made me care. Knockout City, I think, looks like the coolest thing. I don't know how you guys felt about it. Watched that whole trailer. It was one of those situations where I was like, how has this not been done yet? And it looks like, I think there's going to be some tweaking that needs to be done. Specifically, the specials look very overpowered, but I think the core mechanics and the idea of it are brilliant. But I don't know how you guys felt about Knockout City. Ben, did you get a look at Knockout City, or is that one that you?
Yeah, it's one of those things I try it, but it didn't really grab me in a way that was, it's kind of like, I can understand the appeal of Rocket League, but it's not my thing.
Yeah,
this definitely seems like one of those where it's like I can relate, but my dodgeball gaming experience is just arcade, and that's where it's going to stay.
And I think if something were to turn me off with that, I think it could be like a Rocket League or like all these things like Fortnite, everything. I'm not a big multiplayer guy to begin with. The last time I dabbled really hard in multiplayer was Destiny, which was ages ago. The competitive nature of it, like. Rocket League is super, super competitive. I could see this silly dodgeball. I mean, look at Fall Guys, for example. Fall Guys is this really silly game, but it became this phenomenon, and then it became this really, really competitive thing. And that is a danger. But I think at face value, it looks like a very fun concept.
I could see this game becoming very big in the esports realm. It's hugely
it has
team-based.
That simplicity.
There's not only you and your dodgeball, but there's also the option to use your own person as the ball itself if you don't have possession of the ball. So there's that collaboration, there's that competitive nature. I can see this as a very, very watchable esport. Now, that said, I don't have a lot of people that I can count on for this game, so
Nerdbomber.
I'm just going to avoid it because I don't want to lose the little bit of friends that I have, I guess.
The thing that would be key with this game is kind of like you mentioned Fall Guys, and part of the reason why that took off is because it was offered for free with PS Plus as a launch title.
I was just going to say
when
this.
It came up.
The barrier to entry, both in terms of cost and in terms of figuring out how the game works, in as much as you can have these additional folds of strategy like using players as the ball, the barrier to entry in terms of both the mechanics and the price should be low. And it's not clear if that's actually going to be the case, but I think that's a critical.
The key with a game like this being successful, especially when it's kind of being marketed as a more semi-casual experience, is ease of access, like you said, and the player base. And one of the other things that I was happy to see, so this is actually not the first time that they had a trailer. They actually showed it off a little bit during the Nintendo Direct last week. And then I know like the Xbox, Inside Xbox or whatever, they had a short trailer for it and talked about it. And I think getting that visibility and making sure they have cross-platform play to make sure that player base is super high, and then trying to just make it as easy to access and in the hands of as many people as possible will really help this game take off. Because then there's no risk just hopping in a game to try it out, and then if you like it, then you'll stick around, but you didn't spend necessarily $60 to play this game.
Right. So no further questions. I think you're absolutely right about that. We're gonna have to move on to our next topic here, but before we do, we can do another kind of round the table situation. What's a game we didn't talk about you were excited about, or for that matter, what's a game that wasn't showcased? I mean, I think a lot of people were hoping for a God of War 2 update, or they were hoping for a Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West update, Ratchet & Clank update. They didn't get it. I think what they put together without those things was particularly cool, but what's a game we didn't mention that you think looks good, or what's a game you were hoping that they would and they didn't? So Ben, we'll start with you.
Well, I had absolutely no expectations. I wanted to see whatever was new. I wanted to see what would potentially get me to buy a PlayStation 5. And I think that's what I got. I mean, that's, I know about those games that I want. The ones that you listed are ones that I'm interested in, but I really wasn't disappointed that I didn't get to see them. In fact, I would rather see new games that I've never been exposed to. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
So my slightly contradictory opinion is that I was just hoping for more. Like there was something a little bit underwhelming, and like every single trailer kind of wowed me, but there was something a little bit underwhelming because we didn't see something new. And I think that's more a knock on me, because this happened during the Nintendo Direct as well. I don't know why I expect like some big flashy new announcement, or at least one of them. And for the most part, aside from Sifu, every single game we've at least heard about and seen a little bit of in the past.
Sure.
So I was just hoping for like a little bit more. I can understand though, like I know one of my internal disappointments, like you said, I wanted to see more about Horizon Zero Dawn and the God of War sequels. But I can understand why they're not showing us that yet, because
they're not ready, I'm sure.
Right. And we've seen in the past how studios get burned when they show off too much, and then things change and things don't look as good, or they don't play the same way, and people hold them to those early trailers. So I get it. I guess I just expected some other big news, which I didn't get, but I already have the PlayStation 5, and I don't need, you know what I mean? Like I see these trailers and talk about this game every time I turn on my console because it's the splash screen. Whereas if you're not one of those people already in the console system, a lot of this still is new news and exciting stuff. So that was my semi-contradictory opinion.
And you brought up the Nintendo Direct, and we're going to talk about Pokemon in a minute, which is obviously a cornerstone of that. But these states of play and Nintendo Directs, it's really important to go into them with the right minds. And I'm super guilty of this as well. I went into the Nintendo Direct, which was 2 weeks ago at this point, hoping beyond hope for a Metroid 4 announcement, of course, or a Metroid Prime Remaster announcement. I didn't get either of those things, obviously. And with State of Play, I had no expectations, as Ben said. That's the way you want to go in, but it's hard, especially when these companies try to get you hyped up and try to draw you in thinking there's going to be a big announcement, and then there's not. So I think there were a lot of people who were disappointed, but it sounds like Techtic, Ben, and I were not those people. For whatever reason, it's likely because like if there was an Uncharted 5, I'd be salivating. But the two, Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War, frankly, I could give a damn. And I know I just upset a lot of people saying that.
Man, you need to go back and play those games. You have to.
Oh, look, I got a long enough backlog already. I'll get to it.
Seriously, Horizon Zero Dawn, at least. At least.
That was like one of my favorite games of the last generation. 100% hands down.
I've heard tell.
Same
Yeah.
here.
So, well, actually, in my what am I up to? I'm going to get to what I'm playing next, and I think Ben, you'll be particularly interested. But for now, let's move on to talking about this Pokemon 25th anniversary celebration and the announcements therein. And this is where, to be perfectly honest, I take a complete backseat. Most people who listen to the podcast know I'm not a Pokemon person. I do know that Post Malone did a Hootie and the Blowfish cover, which, like, what the hell was that about? We're not here to talk about that, I guess. But that happened. That's the thing that happened. But we got an announcement of an open world Pokemon game, which I think, to me, that's the headliner here, again, as an outsider. Ben, I actually don't know. Are you a Pokemon guy, relatively speaking? What's your experience with them?
Very little. I mean, Pokemon here and there, but that's a little bit after my time.
Yeah, well, you're like me then too. I mean, it was right during my time. I don't know. I missed the boat, the zeitgeist. But it's clearly, in spite of the fact that you and I are off the boat, everyone on Earth besides us basically is on the boat, and I know Techtic and Nerdbomber in particular are captains of the boat. Well, to take the boat metaphor as far as I can.
We're definitely steaming.
We're like, a cruise line, like they have like the VIP members, the VIP travelers. We are the cruise line, the Pokemon cruise line VIP travelers in this situation. We are always on board, ready for a Pokemon vacation.
Good use of on board.
I'm sorry. I need a palate cleanser. I just can't get that Techtic comment on my head right now.
Yeah. See, what Nerdbomber does is she tries to just barrel right through it.
No, that's
Cover
great.
it up with
That's a good way to do it. Yeah, exactly.
It often works.
Yeah, she does.
But not all the time. Okay, Techtic,
So I'm just going to pivot.
What I'm going to tell you to do. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Before you pivot, can I say that I'm really excited about, let me just say, limited experience with Pokemon as a franchise as far as gotta catch them all. But one game in the franchise that I really enjoy a lot is Snap.
Yeah. Snap is great.
I think it's kind of also stems from, it's that kind of game. Anything having to do with like a camera dynamic in a game is really interesting to me. Like Dead Rising, the original Dead Rising games.
Yeah, I remember Dead Rising.
That was something that really, anything having to do with a camera used in a creative and interesting way.
Like Spider-Man did that too. That was cool.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts 3.
I'm glad you brought up Snap too, because that's also, I didn't realize how alike we were in this regard, Ben. That's my touch point with Pokemon too. I played the crap out of Snap. It's easily the Pokemon game I played the most because it's only tangentially about Pokemon, right? You're not catching them all, like you said. You're just
you are. You're catching them all with your camera.
Oh, sure, but you're a photographer, and I guess to however old I was playing that guy, I thought that was the coolest thing. I got really into it. I remember throwing apples at the Pokemon. Formative experience for me, I guess, was doing that. And we certainly already knew about that. We got some more footage of it here. We did not know about, and I don't know how to pronounce this. Pokemon Legends, is it Arceus? Arceus. This just shows how in the know that I am. Techtic, take it away. Please, no inappropriate comments. But what?
Okay.
I mean, this is a big deal, right? This is getting comparisons.
People have
comparisons to Breath of the Wild.
People have been asking for this style of Pokemon gameplay forever. It's what we've been wanting. It has the animation style of Breath of the Wild, which I'm a fan of. And you get to explore open world, catch Pokemon. What more can we want? Thank you, Nintendo. You guys did a great job.
Well, this is one of those things. So, they also announced that Diamond and Pearl are going to get a remake. Not done by Game Freak, done by another studio.
ILCA, I think.
Thank you.
I'm not positive, but I think I have the article here. I can double check.
I'm a little disappointed about that one.
Well, stuff like that, that's obviously that's a remake, but that's the underlying cornerstone, the traditional Pokemon gameplay that we've always had. And when the Switch was announced and Sword and Shield was first announced as the first Pokemon game other than the Let's Go stuff to come to the Switch, people were kind of expecting that we would get more of an open world RPG, kind of like this new announcement. And I think there was a lot of blowback because people were like, well, why did they stick to the same old formula? Why didn't they make this step forward? Why didn't they give us an experience like Zelda that is completely, franchise changing and stands the franchise on its head and does something completely different and unexpected? And
can I clarify something really quick? Again, as an outsider, take, for example, Pokemon Red and Blue. Mm-hmm. By the customary definition, are those not open world experiences?
Technically, they all are open world, but
right. That's what I'm
really
trying
you
to
just
get
kind of follow a path at the same time.
Right. You can go into bushes and catch up as many.
I wouldn't say it's
Pidgeys
open
as
world.
you want.
I'd say you have a set path that you follow.
Yeah, it
remains linear.
It's a pretty linear experience. They guide you through a map, and yes, you can go back and backtrack, but it's kind of like in Crash Bandicoot and linear games from the 90s that aren't necessarily story driven but that just have levels. Obviously Pokemon had a story, but it kind of guides you forward. You can jump back if you want to, but most people don't.
And it's probably kind of similar to the Metroidvania format, right, where the world itself is open, but you're being guided by what you need to do still. Right. Whereas open world is it's open not just in the sense of the world, I guess. It's open in terms of you can do literally whatever you want. So you go figure it out.
The thing that's most exciting to me is not only did they give us this open world thing, but they didn't just do a remake of a game to do it in. They gave us a whole new storyline dating back in time where apparently they were pretty old long time ago, but they had the technology for Pokeballs. Fine, whatever. I'm going to move past that. But all in all, very, very cool. I'm excited for a new chapter. I'm excited for a new perspective, if I will. And I'm excited to rotate the camera constantly because that's what they were showing in this trailer.
So one of the things, obviously, this is kind of like a prequel to the entire Pokemon world as we know it, because this is pre-feudal Japan world and setting and everything like that. And it's before there were gyms and set trainers and stuff like this. This is just hey, people lived and then they decided that they would start catching and taming Pokemon kind of deal.
Age of 10.
And is something like this enough to get you guys to dip your feet into the Pokemon franchise when you hadn't before? Obviously, with me and Techtic, we're already sold and we've been invested in the Pokemon franchise for 25 years. But for you guys, Ben and Illeagle, does this pique your interest at all?
Ben, after you.
No.
Fair enough.
My turn.
Fair enough.
My turn. No.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Ben and I are simpatico here. Okay. We both decided, look, it's not happening. And this looks great. I'm not arguing that. I don't think Ben is either. Yeah. But
not our cup of tea.
At this point, I'm not sure. I mean, and first of all, on my end too, I haven't played Breath of the Wild, and I don't have much of an interest in playing Breath of the Wild, and that's a parallel being drawn here. I don't think it's as simple as like Ben just said. It's not our cup of tea. And I also Pokemon at this point is this monolithic thing that it's almost, I would say it's probably impossible for them to make enough of a large change for me to become interested. Snap is probably the closest they've come. I will say Snap is the one that maybe has my interest the most. I don't plan on buying it.
I will say,
look, that's harsh, but it's how I feel.
So they did show, obviously, even though the user interface changed in the trailer that they showed us, there's still, it looks like a lot of turn-based play here. And if that's not your cup of tea and going around and having to collect a bunch of Pokemon and raise them, if that general cornerstone of gaming is not your cup of tea, no amount of open world RPG elements is going to change your mind and get you interested in a Pokemon game.
Exactly.
Which is fair.
The core mechanic is not going to change. And look, I'll pull the curtain back a little bit further. When I was younger, probably right before Pokemon happened, I had a little thing called a Tamagotchi. Everyone knows about Tamagotchis. Everyone had one. They brought them back. They were a big deal. I killed Tamagotchis. What chance did I ever have to functionally raise not just one, but a fleet of Pokemon?
Well, to
there
be
was
fair,
never any hope.
You don't have to feed and water your Pokemon in the game. You can put Game Boy down for days and
sure, but you can still kill them. As long as there's a way to kill them, I'm sure I would figure.
By the way, that's how you take care of things. You feed and water them.
Right.
You don't give them water.
I'm sure Ben feeds and waters Mango.
Yeah, I water the cats all the time.
Pours water on top of their heads.
I don't want to sound like a super positive, optimistic guy. I want to get my my licks in for throwing shade. The thing that I was disappointed about was the announcement of the remake of Diamond and Pearl. Nerdbomber and I had talked about this already, and if you're gonna remake a game, why remake Diamond and Pearl? The best one in the entire franchise was Gold and Silver. You remake those boys.
Is that a decided point? Like everyone agrees?
It's not. It's kind of contentious. I feel like a lot of
thought Red and Blue.
Well, so Diamond and Pearl is actually largely considered to be the best, but in this household, we are Gold and Silver people. So yeah, we've been eagerly awaiting. At this point, I feel like every entry of Pokemon has been remade at this point, except I guess Gold and Silver got Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but
have Red and Blue been? I guess was that Ruby and Sapphire?
They should do what they did with Super Mario for the Switch, where you can buy a game with all of them jam-packed in one, and you could just play through them all.
That's a great idea, honestly.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're going to move to the break now. In as much as I'm sure two of us could talk about Pokemon all day. We're going to move to the break, but before we do, of course, we want to thank, this time in person, our Patreon producer, Ben, for helping us produce this show, and also for guesting on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here, Ben. It's a pleasure to have Mango as well, our additional co-host, somewhere in the background, taking a smoke break, I suppose.
He's napping now, finally.
Sleeping on the job. How dare he? So Ben supports us at the night level on the show, and as a result, he, of course, gets this guest spot on occasion, and also he gets input into our weekly game segment and access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And we also have, by the way, we have two Patreon producers. Stephen Keller, who is not currently with us, also a producer, also gets all of those same benefits. And of course, we thank him as well. We also have a Squire level of support, which gets the Squires access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And of course, the lowly page gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So if you're interested in giving back to the show, if you've been listening for a while, or if this is your first episode and you want to give back, help us get this show off the ground, then you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast, get more of the details there. We want to thank Ben again. We want to thank Stephen again. And we want to thank any potential future subscribers in advance. And we're going to take a short break now to shout out a sponsor. We'll be right back to talk a little bit about BioWare. Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co. That's podgo.co. And be sure to add our podcast in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Thanks again for listening, and now let's get on with the main episode. So the last topic on the docket today is, generally speaking, BioWare, but this news specifically concerns a few of their franchises. I think at the top level, it's about Dragon Age. They're essentially funneling Dragon Age 4 into a single-player only experience. They're removing the multiplayer component, and that sounds to be particularly influenced by a couple of things. One, they've essentially announced that Anthem, they'll be dropping support for it. They're considering it a failure. And also, the success of Jedi Fallen Order needs to be considered in their plans. So, context for me, but before I turn it over, I think Ben in particular has some things to say about this. Part of my What Are You Up To Wednesday is that Jedi Fallen Order is actually, I got it off Facebook Marketplace, and it's downloading for me right now. As we live and breathe, right here, as we record this, it's currently downloading on my PS4. I can see the download bar. So I'll be playing that. I'll be giving more of an update on that in the next episode. But I'm very excited for that, especially, Ben, last time you were on the show, I think it was either last time or 2 times ago, you gave pretty high praise to Fallen Order.
Yeah, I think it was maybe even three episodes ago. But yeah, it was really, it was a lot better than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed my time with it, and it was a fun story, and there's an interesting story element that comes in at the end that's that's right. Really kind of exciting. It was a very surprising and fun game for me. I think that's, again, at least reportedly, that's the reason that BioWare and EA are dropping Dragon Age to single player only, given that was such a big success. So Ben, I do want to turn it over to you. First of all, are you a Dragon Age? This doesn't impact me. I've never played a Dragon Age game.
I'm certainly, in terms of multiplayer versus single player, I always lean more single player. I like the idea generally of a company like BioWare and EA putting more resources into a great single player experience, perhaps while sacrificing a multiplayer experience. But I don't know. It sounds like you liked Anthem a lot. I don't know what your Dragon Age experience is like, but just tell us how you're feeling, I guess, about this decision.
I agree with it from a game development standpoint. I've never been a fan of these multiplayer components that seem to be money grab kind of things, where you've got to buy stuff and buy card packs or buy things that, that basically, it's just basically a money making tool. That's what a lot of these things feel like to me, at least the more recent ones.
Right.
And even the ones in Mass Effect, although they were fun, it was, there were, I want to say it was 2. I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3, but there was a multiplayer component that was it was fun, but there was something where you bought cards and you got powers and things like that were it was definitely a money-making sort of thing. So I think that is a strategy going away for BioWare, or maybe to some extent EA as a whole, by mentioning the fact that Jedi Fallen Order was a single player success. And then if you look at a lot of the really popular games from the PlayStation 4 in this generation, they're all single player type of games, and it's it makes sense strategy wise.
Right.
So as far as Dragon Age as a franchise, I started playing it when it first came out, and it just never really connected with me as a story. I just never got into it. But I understand that is, I'm more into the sci-fi realm when it comes to like the stories and things that I like to play.
Mm-hmm.
So, it never really connected with me, but I understand that Dragon Age fans are excited about this. I'm just a little sad to see Anthem, which seemed to be a really interesting concept, it seems like it's being scrapped entirely for something that, that's been proven to make them money. And I don't know how much of that is true, but it's like, I would rather them maybe work on a Anthem single player experience, because the flying flying around and all the game mechanics were super solid. It was just the multiplayer thing and the Cataclysm stuff that they had promised early on that didn't come until far later in the game.
Right. Until it was too late.
Those were kind of the blemishes. Yeah, those were kind of the blemishes which drove a lot of people away from it. But as far as the storyline was interesting and the characters were interesting, and I would much rather them focus some energy on something that's new and fresh. But it's their decision to make, and they think that at this time everyone wants Mass Effect and Dragon Age, so I can't fault them for that. But
well,
I hope they don't just scrap it entirely and just don't do anything with the franchise anymore, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there to explore. So
I think maybe once the quote unquote bad taste in people's mouths, because like you said, it wasn't a terrible game. I didn't get a chance to play it, but I know that they did a lot of things post launch to make quality of life for people better, and they basically fixed a lot of the mistakes that game initially launched with. And I wonder if once some time has passed and people forget about the rough launch, maybe they'll revisit the franchise and add that single player element. Because we saw that with Titanfall, where the original Titanfall entry was all multiplayer. And then with the second entry, granted, it still didn't sell as well because of, I think, release timing issues and stuff like that. But that was one of the most lauded single player games. Like a single player element to Titanfall 2 was pretty well received and considered a really good addition to the Titanfall franchise. And then obviously nothing has become of Titanfall since then, but maybe.
But even to the extent that Apex Legends isn't that takes place in that universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and so people were asking, well, when are these two things going to be tied together? And I think that speaks volumes about the franchise. The love of the franchise in general of Titanfall is people are asking for those two things to be connected somehow, and that's kind of cool too. So I heard the same thing about Titanfall 2, is that the single player was amazing.
So maybe somewhere down the road, we might see Anthem get revived in a more single-player centric story. I don't have anything against games as a service. I think that they're very difficult to pull off because I think if the market is oversaturated with them, you start to split up your player base a little bit. And for a while, we were seeing games as a service one after another, and there's simply just not enough people playing those games and willing to do the grind long term to sustain that many. So I think Anthem was just a lot of bad things kind of falling into place at the same time, but I don't think the story and the world was necessarily as bad as a lot of people would have you think, like you said.
Yeah, for me, this is kind of a disappointment because I follow the Anthem subreddit, and I've been watching and wanting to play this game. Because
I remember you talking about this game whenever it was announced. I remember this was your big thing.
I've been perpetually nervous about the whole console bricking thing.
And I think they've since fixed that, but
right. But until, I guess...
Well, and that's the thing, too. They went back. That whole console bricking thing, they found no evidence to support that at all.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's why I'm on the subreddit. And it's just...
Right.
It's always been that bad taste that's just kind of shied me away. And the only reason that I've just not bit the bullet and played the game, because the mechanics are, you guys know me, I love anything remotely resembling Iron Man. And
right.
the mechanics
the flight got you.
Yeah, that to a T. And so ever since then, that taste kind of just did me in, and I want to see something new come out so this way I can get over that initial hump. But I'm also not sad that they're putting all their eggs in to help Mass Effect to come out sooner.
As a Mass Effect fan, I'm selfishly very excited about more resources.
I wanted to ask Nerdbomber specifically about, I assume she feels good about this just because it means Mass Effect has, and granted, Mass Effect doesn't exactly need a chance. It's going to succeed, I think, no matter what. But this has to be music to
and
your ears.
Not only just for the story, Mass Effect had, in my opinion, a great formula in Mass Effect 3 for online multiplayer. It was really a team-based thing where you had to have all these different classes and make it work out, and you took on wave after wave after wave, and frankly, it was addicting and done fantastically. And if they could only improve upon that, the sauce is there. You just got to stir it up and ready to serve.
That's good stuff, Techtic.
But that's the question. It's like, are they going to do this, right? Especially with this announcement, are they scrapping the multiplayer components for things like Mass Effect going forward?
Ben,
right?
the sauce is there.
Well,
right. The sauce is there, but that doesn't mean you just throw everything in there.
They might choose not to stir it.
Yeah, they might not. Yeah. They might not add the Parmesan and all the good stuff.
Well, one of the things that I always come back to, and there was a big thing in the 360 and PS3 days, is that games that were primarily single-player campaigns, they had a tacked-on multiplayer. And with Mass Effect 3, I didn't play the multiplayer until Techtic was like, hey, this is actually really good. You should probably try it, because I thought it was another one of those tacked-on things. But it's one of those things where Doom, the multiplayer idea was good, but there's just not enough people sustaining it. So I don't know. I just want more people on the single-player side of Mass Effect so that I get the great game that I want.
I'm on the same side. So, yeah, granted, I've never played Mass Effect. You tried to get me to once, but let's not open up that.
You will soon.
Right. Well, we'll see. I'm just kidding. I probably will.
I've got one more quick thing to bring up about this is there are some really interesting, the flying components and things from Anthem that were really the fun parts of the game to play could potentially be repurposed to go into something like a Mass Effect or even Dragon Age.
Dragon Age,
would you guys be interested?
Mass Effect, I doubt. Well,
you don't think that? Well, flying Iron Man robot suits.
Future installments, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm thinking for the new game that was announced, not the rehash. I'm curious to know if you think that would be a good. Would you be interested in more flying type of combat and stuff like that in a game that is Dragon Age or Mass Effect?
I think we know Tactics answer, but the Nerdbomber, the Mass Effect purist, I think needs to weigh in here in particular.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be terrible. I think you just have to balance it well. It's one of those things where it could convolute combat, but again, it's like one of those futuristic sci-fi things where I think anything is possible. And if they do it well and they fit it right, and it doesn't feel like something that, hey, we developed this for Anthem, let's just toss it in there and make it work. As long as they make it feel organic, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm just worried that they're going to stagnate on like working with exactly what has been working with them in the in the past, which seems like a weird thing to ask for. I want new. I want exciting. I don't want the same experience in HD. You know what I mean? I want something that's
right.
a little more compelling and interesting and iterates rather than just works with a formula that seems to be the one that's worked for them the entire time. And that's why I liked what they were doing with Anthem, was they were trying something new, which they hadn't done before. And just as long as they learn from it, that's I guess that's the important part. It's just sad to see the IP possibly die.
Well, and I think you said it right there, which is, in talking before about what the issues were, they were release issues. They were primarily probably non-technical issues that, like you said, hopefully they learned something from that. But time will tell. But these are BioWare's plans. Dragon Age fans, chime off. We haven't shouted out the Twitter sphere yet. Chime off in the Twitter sphere. At OWLead86, at Online Warriors 1, at OW Nerdbomber, at OW Techtic. Let us know how you feel about this development in terms of how BioWare and EA are doing things. Mass Effect fans potentially rejoice. Anthem fans, RIP. Let us know where you stand in that hierarchy. We're going to move now to a quick What Are You Up To Wednesday. And of course, we'll start with our guest here, Ben. What's been on the personal docket of late?
Oh boy. Well, I was a little bit late to the show today because I needed some sleep after spending my time with the Outriders demo. Outriders is a game from a company called People Can Fly, who have been most notably responsible for the Painkiller franchise early on the PC, and then also Bulletstorm, which is another one of their breakout games. They're just, first-person, third-person shooters. They're just masters at it. And this is no different. The demo basically has a level cap that you've got 4 different classes that you can play around with. You can play through the prologue and see how the different classes work. And then when the game comes out in, I believe it's April 1st, that is when you can transfer your progress from the demo over to the new version. And if you unlock everything in the demo, you can get some special unlock stuff. So it's kind of, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's great. It's an interesting story so far, and I'm really excited about it. It wasn't really on my radar either. It was just kind of like I saw that it was available, and I heard a couple people say good things about it, and I tried it out, and so far so good. It's really a good third-person shooter, very much in the style of your Gears of War kind of feeling. It's really cool.
Would you say that there's enough content to solo play it if you wanted to, or do you feel like co-op is an important element?
Boy, it's, you know what? It's billed as a 3-player cooperative game, and that's what the description says. I enjoy, even in those types of games, playing it myself. It is challenging solo, but you can select your world tier level if you're having trouble with higher level enemies. Like as you progress in the game, and this is really early on, you've got a thing that basically tracks your character's progression and their levels. But then also you have a world tier, which will allow you to, if you use the most challenging world tier level when you're playing, you can get better drops. But if you're having trouble with that, you can bump it down a bit. So it's got some flexibility as far as being able to solo it. I haven't had any troubles with it so far, but there is an option to change the skill level if you do have problems with it. So I think it's worth checking out as a single player, but I think it's designed for cooperative play.
Gotcha.
But it's cool just to toy around with the different classes and how they work too, because it's like the one I'm playing with, I forget what it's called, but it's basically control earth things. So it's like an earthquake type stuff, and earth armor and things like that. So it's really kind of it's a fun game.
That's good to hear, because like you said, I had heard a lot of good things about it, but good to hear that, because I feel like we have similar game tastes. So I'm going to have to check this out.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out. Let me know what you think.
Right on. Next up, Techtic, you've been quiet. What do you have?
So this is more of a what I will be up to Wednesday. And so last night I installed Iron Man VR onto my PlayStation, and due to the sad news of Anthem, I will be diving into this, and I will let you guys know next week how it goes. That's it.
Okay, well, duly noted. I did play the demo for the Iron Man VR. I really liked it. I haven't yet bought the full game, but I will be checking back in on that because I'm legitimately curious what your thoughts are on it, especially given.
You said you played the demo?
I did play the demo.
Thumbs up or
yeah. Definitely thumbs up to the demo. They did. It's obviously they have to cut certain corners to get the flying around to feel as good as they can, and you're kind of just standing there. Of course, you're not moving around. It takes getting used to, like any VR game would. But overall, I thought it was very good. And Marvel is also a tricky IP because I, of course, wanted to hear Robert Downey Jr. and I didn't. And that's the same problem I had with Square Enix's Avengers. But obviously, that's not really possible. So you have to.
I want to hear Techtic Downey Jr., so that's fine by me.
Fair enough. You have to kind of lower your expectations a little bit, but with that in mind, it certainly fit the bill and it's certainly very good. And we'll hear more from Techtic, I guess, on how the full game is.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that.
So okay, seems like that's it from Techtic. I will go next. I will give a very brief recommendation. So first of all, we can't get into WandaVision. We don't have time. I've been watching WandaVision. It's fantastic. I just watched episode 8 yesterday. Check in on that as soon as you can.
Stay for the credits.
A lot of big things happen. I also last night watched a movie that I want to shout out called Judas and the Black Messiah, which if you have HBO Max, it's an HBO Max exclusive right now. It's also in theaters, but we all know what the deal is with that. Very, very obviously not an upper as far as movies go. It's about the assassination of Fred Hampton, but it's very, very well done. Lakeith Stanfield, Daniel Kaluuya both knock it out of the park acting wise. Overall, very high production value. I'm sure it'll be nominated for at least one Oscar, probably many. Definitely would recommend checking that out. And then I also mentioned, kind of in the same vein as Techtic, I'm going to be starting Fallen Order up here pretty soon. So be on the lookout for some updates from me on that. But for right now, that's it for me. So we'll swing it over to Nerdbomber to close things out here on the personal updates.
All right, so the biggest thing is that we watched The Little Things on HBO Max, and I believe Illeagle, you said that you had watched this.
I did, yeah. What did you think?
So I don't know I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I thought it was actually pretty entertaining and pretty good.
I think they're the worst detectives ever. They didn't solve anything.
It could have been so much better.
I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, like you said, it could have been better. That was my only thing. Yeah. I thought it was a very fine movie. I don't know if I would have paid to see it in theaters. I would not have subscribed to HBO Max specifically to watch this movie, but it kept me hooked and entertained, and I wanted to see what happened as the movie progressed. It was like a very serial killery detective story. For those of you who don't know, it has Denzel Washington, Rami Malek. That's basically
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto.
Where's that serial killer outfit like it's a second skin?
So I mean, I thought it was good. I don't want to give anything away. I was a little underwhelmed at the ending. But that's my personal taste in movies as to why I was underwhelmed at the ending. But I thought it was a pretty entertaining movie. And we haven't seen, like, it was a period piece. It was like the 90s. And I feel like having serial killer detective movies, period pieces, hasn't been in vogue lately. So at least it was like a good change up from your typical superhero stuff, or I don't even know what's been releasing, just generic action movie. So I liked it. I thought it was good.
So if you're looking for a crime thriller, you can do better. It's the main thing I would say. Zodiac, for example, period piece detective thriller that is, granted, based on true events, whereas Little Things is not, but far better. Like, head and shoulders cut above. I actually did not mind the ending of Little. It was one of the things I actually liked about it was it had, without getting into spoiler territory, it had this mix of closure and not closure that I thought was very effective. But overwhelmingly, just watching the movie, especially considering the strength of the performances, which I thought were overall very good, it could have been so much better than it was. And I will say,
there was some wasted time too. Like, there was a car driving scene that took what felt like 10 minutes, which felt a little unnecessary. But hey,
it was supposed to be suspense building, but they didn't really pull that off very well. I think to put a cap on it and to say, you said that you wouldn't have seen it in theaters. They fully had me bought in. I 100% would have bought a ticket and seen it in theaters. So I'm better off because I was able to watch it on HBO Max, and that was better for a number of reasons. But I would have paid full price ticket, gone and seen it in theaters, and probably been much more disappointed in that case than I was in this case.
Well, like you said, if you're big into like crime thrillers, you don't have a lot of stuff coming out lately. Like there's not a ton. You maybe get 1 or 2 a year. So if this is what you're into, like do it. You know what I mean? I think it's a worthwhile watch.
Yeah. And like I said, the performances were the main thing I think that were particularly good about it. Cool. Good talk. Some movie recommendations there. We're going to hear from Techtic about Iron Man. We're going to hear from me about Fallen Order. So let's get into, I think Techtic is on the hook based on last week's results for a little bit of a quiz. And if I remember correctly, this is about chess. And I feel particularly at an advantage here because after recently watching The Queen's Gambit, I've started playing chess a lot on my phone. And I'm sure that's going to pertain directly to what this quiz is. So let's get into it. What do you say?
All right, we'll roll right into it. So the topic is chess trivia, like was mentioned. And the first question is, when was the first AI chess ever made?
And this is Price is Right style, correct?
Price is Right style.
And we'll give Ben last ups as the guest. Bit of an advantage technically, but look, he's the guest.
We'll do a round robin on who goes first each time.
Sure. I will go first. The first chess AI was invented coincidentally with the first computer, I'm going to say. Like it was like probably the first thing they did. So I'm going to say 1968. That is my official answer. 1968.
I'm going to say 1980.
Okay, and I'm thinking early 70s is what I'm thinking. So don't take this as me doing the +1 for you Illeagle, but I'm thinking I'm just going to say 1970.
Hey, that's +2. It's not +1.
None of you guys have no idea. None of you guys have any idea when the first computer was made. So the first program was made 1951. It was developed at the University of Manchester. Y'all busted.
Okay, so no points. Dang it. Well, I was closest, but yeah, no points.
The next question is, Emanuel Lasker was the longest reigning world chess champion. How long did he reign?
And we'll do Nerdbomber first on this one, I think.
I feel like they sit for a while. Like, I feel like once you get a master, they retain their position for, I don't know, I'm going to say 20 years is my guess.
Not he became a master. I'm saying as the world champion.
Right. That's what I meant. 20 years. I'm going to stick to it.
Okay. And Ben, you're up next, I think.
20 years. You know what? I don't know if it's more or less. I'm thinking maybe I'm going to say 10 years.
Okay. I feel very differently about this. I'm saying 1 year. It's not long. It's certainly not 20. Ben might have it, but it's certainly not 20. I'm going to say 1.
So Nerdbomber gets it.
What?
It was, yes, you're absolutely right. It is very, very rare for someone to reign for even close to that long of time. And actually, some people speculate that it doesn't really count because his reign was during World War I, and it went from 1894 to 1921, and there was no championships going on at that time, so we kind of got buffer years for free.
So it's what, 25 years? 27 years. I'm good at math.
So
good grief.
That's 1 for Nerdbomber. Another question with regards to champions. Sergei Karjakin
yeah, pretty close.
Was the youngest player to become a grandmaster. How old was he?
And Ben is first on this one.
I should know this.
This is actually more recent news, by the way.
Are you a chess buff? Ben?
I am not, but my brother is.
I see.
And my brother is a big chess guy. So he talks to me about it all the time. I should know this, though.
Hint for everyone. This is in the 2000s time frame.
2000?
Yeah. I want to say 10. 10 years old.
5. He's absolutely younger. This kid was barely out of diapers. 5.
I'm going to say 6.
Oh, come.
There's not a big window, but I feel like he's younger than 10, but more than 5.
So Ben gets this. He's 12 years old.
Come on, what a rookie. I could do better.
You guys are crazy if you think a 5-year-old is going to become a grandmaster, but hey.
When did Mozart play the piano? I thought it was young.
Don't you ever watch like Young Sheldon? These people are out there, man.
Yeah, but a young person can do something of like is one thing, but to be able to be substantially better than other people who have years and years of experience, the time is just not there. Anyways.
Fair enough, I suppose. So we're at 1 to 0. Am I right? Did we just Nerdbomber have 2 points? Okay.
No, it's 1 to 1 to 0.
Yeah, I'm in this.
In chess, the fewest possible moves for a player can be achieved by black on what's called a fool's mate.
Yep.
How many moves does it require per side to have a fool's mate?
I actually think I might know this. 2, I think.
I'm gonna say 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's 2. Another question my brother's probably told me about a million times and I forget. I'm going to say 7.
Illegal, nail, head, smash.
Yeah.
It was 2.
2.
I've
White
had this
moves
done to me,
both
by
of
the
its
way.
pawns forward.
That's how I know.
Black moves 1 pawn forward to allow the queen to move, and then the king can't go anywhere. Kerpow.
Yeah.
And by the way, you a fool if you let this happen to you.
I've had it done to me. That's how I knew. So
we've got 1s across the board.
learn from experience.
When was the World Chess Foundation officially founded?
I feel like it has to be around for a while, right? I'm gonna say, I don't know, probably. Obviously, the world champions, you kind of gave it away because it's the World Wars. I'm gonna say 1890.
Is it my turn next?
Yep.
Okay. I think it's earlier than that. I think it's 1840.
Yeah, I'm going even earlier. Guys, chess was invented in like the 1500s or something. 1700.
So just because it was invented and it was played and that there were world championships does not mean that there was a federation.
Oh, God.
The federation was officially founded in 1924 after World War I. Don't you guys think I would ask questions that don't seem so gimme? Come on now.
Okay, so Nerdbomber gets the point then.
Yep. And we
Take it.
got one more question to either make it a 2-way tie or just have her run away with the victory.
Okay, let's do it.
This is an easy one. How many
We'll see.
categories of pieces are on a board?
What do you mean by category?
Don't specify. If she doesn't know, she doesn't know. This is the easiest question on earth.
Like, are you talking like the different types of pieces?
If you don't know, you don't know.
Okay.
So who's going first?
You're up first, Ben.
6?
Yeah, unfortunately, Ben's exactly right. I'll just say 7, but Ben got it right.
Why?
I mean, we've played chess before. Nerdbomber, make your meaningless guess. Ben got it right.
Yeah, 5, I guess, just to say that I said it.
Why wouldn't you guys all guess 6?
What do you mean?
I mean, that feels disingenuous.
The answer is 6. You all knew. It's trivia. You have easy questions. You have hard questions. Why wouldn't you guess the answer if you knew the right answer?
I don't
Look,
know if I thought you.
They're being nice to me.
I would prefer.
They're being nice.
I would prefer to fall on my sword and watch a 2-way battle for supremacy. So let's have a tiebreaker question. I'll sit this one out.
I will say that was a big gimme there, Techtic.
I wanted to see if
That's
you
why-
guys were paying attention.
I gotta be honest. When you said categories, I was like, this can't be this
You
easy,
have to
right?
understand. There are people listening who want to feel smart and get a couple questions right every now and then.
All right, that's
It's
fair.
a gimme for our listeners.
Well,
Okay.
let's have a tiebreaker to determine final supremacy here.
To achieve a scholar's mate, how many moves might be needed?
Might be.
Like
Also-
the minimum. You can achieve it with more moves.
I see. Nerdbomber is first on this one.
I'm gonna hazard a guess and say 4. I don't know. I feel
talked
like
about this.
was that something in Queen's Gambit? I feel like
Yeah, they talked about it in
Okay.
Queen's Gambit.
that's why I know this. I was like, I feel like I shouldn't know this, but I feel like I kind of know this.
My guy, Mr. Scheibel, talked
Yeah.
about it.
I didn't see Queen's Gambit, and I feel bad about it, but I think it's definitely more than 4, but that's just a guess. So I'm going to say 5.
So with that, Nerdbomber takes it. It was actually
gonna say,
exactly 4.
I thought I feel
Queen's
like 4
Gambit
was
for
right.
the win.
Yeah. Well, congrats to Nerdbomber taking our guest and just body slamming him. That's
Sorry, Ben.
it's very
That's okay.
Very-
That's no problem.
very chivalrous.
I'm
of you.
just gonna hear it from my brother. You know, it's not gonna live it down for weeks and weeks, but that's okay. No big deal.
I hope you all learned something though.
Well, I learned a lot except for I knew 2 answers exactly. But like you said, for the listeners, sorry to Ben's brother. Thank you to Ben. Congratulations to Nerdbomber on her victory. She will host next week. Thank you, Ben, for being here. We really appreciate you coming on. Continue to wish you all the best. And
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys for having me. It's always fun every time I come on the show. So thank you so much.
Well, that brings us to the close. So we want to thank everyone else for listening. Come back next week. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And good looking out. Stay healthy, stay safe. And we'll talk at you all next week.
Hey everyone, you're invited to Harpy Hour! I'm Tracy.
I'm Liz.
I'm Steph.
We are the Harpies, and Harpy Hour is our new podcast featuring ridiculous stories in history, science, and entertainment.
Were you ever suspicious that pigeons were secretly spying on you?
How do you know who to eat first if you survive a shipwreck? Do problematic musicals send you into an uncontrollable rage?
If so, then Harpy Hour might be your new favorite podcast. That's HARPY for Harpy, and new episodes air every Tuesday wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can also find us on all social media at Harpy Hour Pod. And check us out on harpyhourpodcast.com.
Okay, bye!